We have, this is interesting, we have two in developing. On the Vision Daily Work of Family, okay, so that's why you became a school system. A few long-term goals, okay. And then we had a couple in the middle. Can the people in the middle just talk a little bit? I guess that's Terry and who was green?
Green, red would be
John Paul.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? So under management, you saw burnt out, staff burnt out.
That's what I saw.
Yeah, okay.
They were quiet. I mean, and we're going to start experimenting with structural models. I mean, we're doing the
Yeah, that's true,
the
the scheduling, yeah.
the scheduling.
Okay.
And when I said divisions of labor within the organization, I guess that was more hopeful than anything, because I know that they used to have and it's particularly talking about high school. They had the curriculum director and all that last year, but before, within the different disciplines, they had a leader, a team leader, and I would really like to see that come back. I think the teachers would like to see that come
I'm
back.
glad to hear you say that, because one of the leverage points of high-performing districts is, this is going to be familiar to you guys in terms of the teachers model. They trust the teachers that are doing that because they were teachers and our teachers were colleagues. One of the high leverage points is you take someone who's respected in the school, that has that knows how to, is not afraid to go in and teach and let the people watch them, is not afraid to co-teach and make sure the standard's there and the technology component. Curriculum leaders in the content areas are a must if you're going to move your system along, because they help to get the conversations about common assessments. They're like the nucleus for building professional learning communities. Well, that was one of the things I noticed was you were missing that piece, and that's the glue.
There's a reason for that too. The role
political?
of team leader, curriculum leader, whatever, is defined in the
contract, and then they rewrote it and they added more things.
It
and then
was
they
a
got
tremendous, so
I
that
know
the workload was huge. And nobody was willing to take on that workload on top of their.
Yeah, and I'm wondering.
In the competencies and assessments were coming in, and the team leader, I think, was expected to crack the whip and get their fellow colleagues doing this. So, I don't want to be a supervisor.
I don't want to be an administrator. I want to be.
Right.
You know what the problem? It's a great model, and I hope to implement that. So I just want to be real honest up front with that. But if you don't have the culture that supported that, you're going to get resistance. And I don't think you have the culture because you had the culture being one more people to supervise, person to supervise, one more person to do someone else's dirty work, one more layer of bureaucracy, and they're here as a watchdog. They're not here to help. They're going to report back. You had a lot of that going on because I've been sort of exploring that, and that's what I'm hearing. So, but people agree it's an important thing to have. So I think you got to create the culture and the climate, and then they'll support it. The other thing is the job description. I didn't see anything wrong with that, and yes, it had a ton of stuff. But look at mine. Look at anyone's.
Yeah, but that
What
was
you
on
do
top
with-
of teaching, however.
No, I understand that.
Wasn't
But-
that wasn't the only job they were doing.
But
It
let me
was on
finish.
top of it.
Let me finish. You usually have a very broad job description, right? But do we expect you to do everything? And I think one of the missing things is that there's a lot of things in this job description. We're going to focus on this one, and this one next year or two. And then so you try to build it so there's the flexibility that as the organization grows and the curriculum grows and expertise and building capacity and all that stuff happens, that there's a growth within the job description to sort of keep on top of that. And you don't have to let's invent a few more things to add to this now because we're changing. So you try to build something very broad, but you keep it within the confines of, remember I said don't create enough dissonance that it's out of the realm of managing. I don't think they understood this. I mean, somewhere probably in mine it says in any other task that the school board.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's like 2,000 pages, right? Thank you for saving the print from the 2,000 pages. But that's enormous, right? So I think they could have just said that, you know, after they captured whatever, maybe added a couple, just said, or any others. And I bet you that would have been fine. But when you start to codify every single thing, you gotta get a headache reading it, let alone trying to do it. So we'll come back to that, but I'm glad to hear that there seems to be support for some kind of glue to help, you know, move the curriculum along, and it's not just in.
I'd like to say something about the mentoring system. Teachers teaching teachers. When I worked at New England Business Services.
Okay, 1 second, I don't know who this is. Hello? Oh, okay, well, when this phone rings, I think it's a problem in the district, so, all right, thank you. It's the wrong number. Yeah, I told him I'd be here, and only call me if it was an emergency. This is the school phone. So when it rang, it's like, no! At least I'm with the right group. If there was an emergency, I could say, okay, I'll get back to you. What do you guys want to do?
Check, please.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
But that's okay. When I worked at New England Business Services, of course, being in a collegial group of trainers working to, you know, move the education forward within the entire company, some of us were, you know, just starting out. Some of us were here. Some people that were just starting up, depending on what position they had come from.
Just like the board.
Were way up here, even though they may never have had any teaching experience.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that became culturally ingrained was that you were never really assigned someone to necessarily mentor you. Instead, it was up to the team to take care of itself. And therefore you found out who your leaders were. So instead of the hierarchy appointing the leadership because they thought this person had everyone's respect, inevitably it ended up being a person who really in reality didn't have that respect. And it was also filtered back into performance reviews because the training manager would recognize who was out there doing what with what people to make sure that they were successful. And it usually was, you know, a small group of very experienced trainers that really ended up going out of their way because they knew what type of a learning curve the other trainers were involved in. So there's a lot of different ways to look at teachers mentoring teachers, and it doesn't necessarily have to stem from the hierarchy.
That's a good point too, and I'll keep that in mind when people express an interest as serving as a curriculum leader. You know, a question for me to ask Dixie and Donna and others. I feel like I'm talking about reindeer. Donna and Vixen. I get Dixie and Donna together. It's Christmas. That they check in and say, do they have the respect of the staff? Because, like you say, when you put a team together, somebody emerges as the leader. It's because the others step back and feel comfortable with if they take the lead, they're willing to follow and have that conversation. So I'll follow up from that angle.
And it could be a combination of all of the above.
Now, in the perfect world, your second point about the